Good morning, good evening, and good night. Guys, welcome to the channel. Welcome to Foghorn 5. Welcome to episode 1 of History Breach. History Breach is going to be my new segment on this channel where I deep dive into military history, either, going over like a unit or maybe a historical event, a battle, anything like that. Just kind of another form of content that I want to branch off on this channel where we actually, kind of just get to sit down, enjoy our time, and just go over, historical events. Like I've stated before, I want to break off into all types of different content on this channel. I don't want to just be, one kind of content. So it's time to pop a squat on the recliner and start up the fireplace because today we're going to be talking about the Punishers, aka Task Unit Bruiser. So really quick, why talking about Task Unit Bruiser? So this new movie Warfare is about to come out, and I thought it was the perfect time to kind of capitalize on this idea. So I'm shooting this video before that movie comes out, and hopefully it releases before it does too, because I want to give like an accurate historical breakdown on this SEAL team unit and see how it gets represented in this new movie Warfare. So yeah, making this video, I think it'd be really cool to see the comparison based off of what I've learned historically and the stuff that we're going to talk about today versus when we go check out that movie, and then maybe even later we could do some sort of video kind of doing a comparison or review if you guys think that's a cool idea. Lastly, before we kick off the video, I want to give a huge shout out to everyone who's been subscribing, liking, commenting. If you haven't done any of that stuff, go do it right now. Hit the bell to get notified when we post new videos. Support on this channel continues to just be great. So I want to give a huge shout out to the vets. There's still so many people out there who experience these real life events, out there alive today. So I just want to give a giant thanks to you guys and for your service if you're watching this video. So thank you guys so much for serving this country. With all that, we're going to kick off this video and deep dive into Task Unit Bruiser. All right, so you guys know how we do things here on this channel. I'm going to be reading off of my cheat sheet right here. So who actually were the Punishers? That would be Task Unit Bruiser, part of SEAL Team 3 during the Battle of Ramadi in 2006. They were commanded by Lieutenant Commander Jocko Willink. The unit was organized into 2 platoons, Charlie Platoon and Delta Platoon. Notable members also include Leif Babin, served as the platoon commander and also co-authored books with Jocko later on down the line. Most notably Chris Kyle from American Sniper, the book and the movie, renowned as the most lethal sniper in US military history. And then we got Marc Lee, unfortunately the first Navy SEAL killed in action during Operation Iraqi Freedom. Michael Mansour, a Navy SEAL who eventually got awarded the Medal of Honor for his acts of bravery. Johnny Kim served as a combat medic, sniper, and navigator, later became an astronaut for NASA. Kevin Lax served as a sniper and medic within the unit. Ryan Job, critically injured by a sniper during an operation in Ramadi. JP Donnell served as a pointman, machine gunner, and led snipers of Delta Platoon. And then Tony Ifrati and Jason Hogan, also just members of Task Unit Bruiser. Not too much information on those two guys, but they are also known members of Unit Bruiser. These individuals obviously played a huge role in Task Unit Bruiser and the reputation they have today, aka the Punishers, and they're also the reason why they're one of the most decorated special forces units in the Iraq War, period, point blank. So now that we know who the Punishers are, why Task Unit Bruiser? Why that name, right? Because that is a special name in itself. Obviously, as unit names go, it's Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, right? Those kind of names, A, B, C. Bruiser, actually, they would have traditionally been known as Bravo, but Jocko actually kind of wanted to go ahead and change that name and kind of give it his own flair. So Task Unit Bruiser, part of SEAL Team 3, they were named Bruiser to set an aggressive and formidable tone for the unit. Lieutenant Commander Jocko Willink, who led the unit, adopted this practice from Colonel David Hackworth, one of the most decorated soldiers and authors of About Face. Hackworth was known for renaming his units to instill a warrior ethos and elevate the combat effectiveness. So he believed that, renaming units to have a more aggressive tone and more of a, frightening name would instill fear into the enemies. So instead of just being like a casual Bravo or whatever, they're creating a reputation as a group of warriors to scare the enemy and play psychological mind games, with them. By choosing the name Bruiser, Jocko aimed to cultivate a mindset of toughness and resilience among his team members, reflecting the unit's mission and operational approach during their deployment. So now that we have an understanding for Bruiser, they actually have another reputation and another name, the Punishers. So why the Punishers? During their Ramadi deployment in 2006, Task Unit Bruiser adopted the Punisher skull logo from Marvel Comics as a symbol of their mission and mindset. Chris Kyle explained in his autobiography, American Sniper, that they identified with the Punisher character because he righted wrongs and killed bad guys, aligning with their own objectives. They modified the skull symbol to make it their own and prominently displayed it on their gear, their guns. They spray painted it on walls, vehicles. So it's kind of this symbol of death that they want to leave all around the town to, instill fear into the insurgents in the surrounding area. Watching or reading interviews about these individuals from Task Unit Bruiser, you pretty much get the same kind of understanding amongst them all, where they are very much a tight-knit team. They're very proud of one another. They all had this presence amongst each other. They all had, respect for each other and an equal kind of goal around what they're going to be doing and what they're trying to accomplish. To them, being there and being in Ramadi was more than just serving their duty. They wanted to create, a name for themselves. They wanted to instill fear into the enemies, and they really wanted to kind of share an equal brutality that the enemies were, forcing upon them, but kind of reverse it, because the enemies they're going up against, in my opinion, really are an evil bunch of people. They would behead people, rape people, not just people that they're actually actively fighting, but like literally civilians, children, all that kind of shit. So Task Unit Bruiser really wanted to put it upon themselves to make sure that they were feared and the enemy never felt safe, and to really drive them out of Ramadi. With that being said, now that we have this like general understanding of who Task Unit Bruiser is, we're going to kind of just talk about the war in Ramadi and why they're even there, and why America was even sent there. Interestingly enough, a few of the dudes from Task Unit Bruiser were actually going to be sent to Baghdad versus Ramadi. So let's just kind of talk about that, right? Because I think that's a good point to touch on. So to kind of set the tone to understand why Ramadi is such an important and, kind of bad place at this time. In 2006, the population of Baghdad, which is a huge, huge city, 5.18 million people. So this is a huge city. And Ramadi in 2006 had a population of 280,000 people. So obviously significant size difference. So the scale of, how bad and fucked up Ramadi really was, the same amount of attacks and IED explosions and horrible shit that was going on in Baghdad, that same amount was equal to Ramadi. So then why was Ramadi such a hot spot in the Iraq War? Ramadi became such a point of interest in the Iraq War due to its strategic location as the capital of the Al-Anbar province. Because of Ramadi being such a central heart of the, surrounding cities and kind of, where everything is coming in and going out of, obviously terrorist groups are going to target places like that, because then they could have a stronghold over, the populace, the government, they could really control stuff. And that's what the terrorist group Al-Qaeda did. They actually declared it as their own capital in 2006. So a little bit more about Ramadi and its strategic location. It's 68 miles west of Baghdad, or 110 kilometers. Obviously, like we talked about, it's a crucial city in western Iraq, and it's a center of gravity for coalition forces, making it a key target for both US forces and insurgents and the Iraqi army. Everyone kind of wants this one location. After the fall of Fallujah in 2004, Ramadi became a focal point for the insurgency, with the Islamic State, a front group for Al-Qaeda in Iraq, declaring it as their capital, like we said before. So there's actually two wars that kind of happened in Ramadi. There's one in 2004 and one in 2006. We're talking about the 2006 one. Basically, when Fallujah fell, a lot of those insurgents and all those terrorist groups are moving from Fallujah to Ramadi. There was kind of an initial pushback in 2004. Then, it kind of cooled off because a lot of the actual locals in Ramadi at the time were siding more with Al-Qaeda. But later on in 2006, they're just doing such horrible shit to the local people. That idea kind of changes, and then you get more of the local support on the side of the US and wanting Al-Qaeda out. Still throughout those times, you're always getting, half and half kind of people siding with the US, siding with the terrorists. You really see that shift change in 2006 when everyone is kind of pushing to get them out. The city obviously experienced a breakdown of law and order, with streets becoming common battle zones for US forces and insurgencies clashing over the area. And as I was kind of talking about the populace shifting in 2004 to 2006, the main players of that are the Sunni tribe. The city of Ramadi, also known as the Sunni Major, became a focal point of conflict, with the Sunni tribes playing a significant role in both the insurgency and subsequently the Anbar awakening, a movement that saw some tribes ally with US forces against Al-Qaeda in Iraq. So once again, Ramadi being this central point of kind of everyone coming in, also the central point of the Sunni tribe, at first in 2004 was a major player in the pushback to get US forces out of Ramadi. Opinions kind of changed against Al-Qaeda, and then more and more members of the Sunni tribe want to kind of reclaim their area for their own and sided with the US to get them out because of all the horrible shit that Al-Qaeda was doing at the time. Okay, so we have an understanding of what's going on in Ramadi and why it's such a hot spot. So what is Task Unit Bruiser's mission? So they aim to conduct reconnaissance, gather intelligence, execute targeted raids to disrupt insurgent operations, and train and advise Iraqi army units, ultimately contributing to the city's security. A lot of it came down to them just making sure that they can get every American back home safely. So on paper, obviously, their goal really is to secure the area. But really when you hear about Task Unit Bruiser individually, a lot of their personal goal was to just get Americans back home. Americans at the time, are out there, they're fighting, they're joining this war effort. Task Unit Bruiser takes it upon themselves to really make a huge effort to secure the city for the purpose of, getting Americans back home. So for a lot of Task Unit Bruiser members, that's kind of what their focus was on there the whole time. That was driving them to continue to fight, because they knew if they left that there's still going to be Americans there fighting, so they have to do everything that they possibly can to keep them safe. So as most special forces kind of do, Task Unit Bruiser faced a lot of criticism. And actually one of their biggest points of criticism was a very bad blue on blue friendly fire event that happened between them. Issues with communications, and they got into a huge friendly fire incident, and it kind of stuck with all the members of Task Unit Bruiser, throughout the rest of their service. So they faced a massive friendly fire event because guys on the outside spotted Iraqi soldiers on the inside of a building. They saw that unmistakable shape of an AK-47 through a window, and they immediately thought that it was insurgents. So this building was already occupied with Iraqis and American soldiers, other SEAL team members as well. Everyone starts opening fire on the building. So very unfortunately, they ended up killing that Iraqi soldier and wounding Americans and more Iraqi soldiers in the building. So they were shooting the building with vehicle-mounted 50 cal machine guns. They were absolutely lighting this thing up. One of the Americans on the rooftop actually got a chunk of metal lodged into his face. 50 cal nicked the lip of the roof and actually got lodged into his cheek, which he recounts pulling it out and throwing it on the floor. So his face is all messed up from that crazy bad incident. So they were having huge communication issues also through the radio from each other, from actually where their base command is or whatever, not being able to relay to each other who they're shooting at. And the dudes back on base are both getting information from both sides that they're in this gunfight, and at the time they're trying to piece together who is shooting at who, what's going on. Luckily they were able to figure out what was going on and call it off in time because they literally had air support ready to airstrike a building on the way. Call it off, and unfortunately one casualty, but it could have been a lot more, could have been a lot worse. Due to the whole incident, a lot of the team members and stuff were feeling super guilty. Higher ups obviously were asking who's to blame here. Everyone's kind of saying, oh, it's my fault, I didn't take this precaution, it's my fault, I should have been, more clear on the radio and stuff. But Jocko, the leader of Bruiser, actually took full responsibility for the whole thing, inherently kind of gained a huge amount of respect amongst his peers. And that's a key thing that you'll hear about Jocko, and that, he kind of does over and over again. He really just sucks up his role as a leader, and that's why he is such a renowned leader and writes so many books about it and stuff. And he's very well respected because of acts like that. But that incident right there shaped the way Bruiser handled a lot of situations going forward. They took a lot of precautions because of that. One thing notably is they would carry red and white flares, white meaning, we're friendly, red meaning that it's, bad. So let each other know, hey, if we're getting in a gunfight, let's make sure that we're not shooting at the wrong guys. So now with kind of their biggest criticism out of the way, we're going to talk about a slightly smaller one, which kind of goes down the line of, what they're actually doing there, what specifically their mission is. We kind of talked about that a little bit before, but we're going to go into specifics now. So they are getting a lot of criticism for why are Navy SEALs fighting the infantry's fight. Task Unit Bruiser was paired with all types of infantry to basically back them up and be support, notably Army's 1st Battalion, 506th Infantry Regiment, the 101st Airborne Division and the 1st Brigade, and also the 1st Armored Division. So because of that, people are all saying, oh, they're fighting the infantry's fight, when they should be out there going after, big targets, all that kind of stuff. And in retaliation to that, Task Unit Bruiser and Navy SEALs feel that they should be well-rounded soldiers. They're not just doing one task, they're not just out there to complete one goal. They're extremely versatile. That's what they feel like they should be doing. And actually, you know, the city of Ramadi is a very high value target. So, you know, it's not just like an individual thing. You know, it's a huge access point for Al-Qaeda. Navy SEALs can't take down an entire city by themselves, so they need to help the war effort in securing the city with all the boots on the ground guys. It's part of their role as being a special operation unit to be versatile and to be able to take down those challenges and to help any kind of effort at all. Along with that, they kind of got a lot of criticism for why were they fighting in the daytime. People know Navy SEALs to be fighting at night. Actually, throughout history, Navy SEAls are kind of always bouncing off back and forth, whether it's the daytime. Back in World War II, they were clearing mines in the beach in the nighttime at first, and then eventually changed to doing it in the daytime. In Vietnam, they did a lot of stuff in the nighttime because, you know, that's when they knew that Viet Cong were setting up traps and stuff. And then global war on terror, they started moving to do everything in the daytime, specifically because insurgents in Ramadi were well aware that Americans owned the night. And for the most part, they wouldn't dare to kick off a fight at nighttime. So Bruiser actually did use this to their advantage. They would sneak their ways through city streets and establish sniping overwatch positions and paths for other elements to follow right into the heart of the insurgency territory. They would go and set up firing positions where no one else dared. They would make their way there, wait there all throughout the night, and as soon as sunrise hit and those prayers started going off in the cities, the streets actually would continue to battle during the day. Task Unit Bruiser capitalized extremely on their snipers. They did most of their killing, you know, from sniper positions, protecting American ground forces from ambushes, car bombings, all types of attacks. And if not for them and all those sniper positions that they would set up at night and all the stuff they were doing, who's to tell how many Americans would be, you know, dead now? And that's kind of the consensus that the public eye has on Task Unit Bruiser, that they thought out of the box. The chain of command throughout the unit was very free-flowing and outward thinking. Jocko wasn't the type of leader where he would say it's my way or the highway. He would take everyone's input, agree with just whatever the best idea was at the time. So it allowed for, you know, Task Unit Bruiser to be very versatile and to really impact the war effort in Ramadi. Last segment of the video, I want to just go ahead and honor the fallen soldiers and warriors of Task Unit Bruiser. You know, these are brave men that put their life on the line for us as Americans and help and secure the city of Ramadi and all the innocent people that were being harmed there. So as I kind of stated in the beginning, 2 of Bruiser's members were killed in action, and one of them being severely injured. Starting off with Marc Lee, the date was August 2nd, 2006. Marc Lee was killed during a fierce firefight after another SEAL, Ryan Job, was critically wounded by a sniper. Lee stepped into open fire multiple times to cover for the evacuation of Ryan Job, doing his best that he could to, you know, provide suppressive fire and to get his other team members to safety. But unfortunately, during his final exposure into the open, he was fatally shot. His actions helped save the lives of his teammates, and they get to live their lives now because of him, but not for a great sacrifice in return. Second, we have Michael Mansour, September 29, 2006. Mansour was on top of a rooftop providing overwatch with another SEAL, and then an enemy threw a grenade on the rooftop. Landing near Mansour and 2 other SEALs, without hesitation, he yelled a warning and threw himself onto the grenade. Absorbing the blast, he died shortly after, but his selfless act saved the lives of those 2 other SEAls. And once again, another situation where he made the greatest sacrifice and put his life on the line to ensure that his 2 other friends are going to go home safe. And all in all, although those deaths are very unfortunate, I think it serves as a really good reminder what kind of people they were and really what their goal was there. Really made it a huge point to make sure that Americans were coming back home to keep everyone safe and really have a strong brotherhood and bond amongst each other. Even with that all being said, some of the members of Unit Bruiser have openly said they wish that that was them. They were the ones saving Marc Lee, put themselves in their shoes and replaced them, because that's just the type of group that they were, the type of unit they were, to do everything they can to save each other and get each other home safely. And then another honorable death for Task Unit Bruiser that wasn't a combat death is actually Chris Kyle. On February 2nd, 2013, Chris Kyle was actually fatally shot alongside a friend, Chad Littlefield, at a gun range in Texas by Eddie Ray Ruth. As far as I know the story, I think they were just going out to a gun range and just shooting with this guy, bringing a friend along, and I think he had some sort of mental issues, PTSD and stuff. I don't know, he got confused and shot Chris Kyle and his friend, which is extremely unfortunate. So yeah, just another loss of life for the Task Unit Bruiser that is super unfortunate. With that all said and done, this is now the end of the video. I really hope that I formatted this in a good way, a good comprehensive way. It was kind of tricky trying to figure out a way to, you know, go over the entire history briefly of a whole unit. There's so much stuff that goes on with an entire unit's deployment, so many things to cover. Maybe eventually down the line we'll get into the nitty-gritty of some of those very specific incidents and kind of recount them further if that's something that you guys think is interesting. But hopefully I was able to provide a well-rounded, just point-to-point, explanation of Task Unit Bruiser, the Punishers, who they are. There's so much information out there about Task Unit Bruiser, so I kind of want to just throw out a big shout out to a bunch of places where if you want to learn more about them, you can. So if you're into reading books, I highly recommend checking out Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink, The Last Punisher by Kevin Lax, and American Sniper by Chris Kyle. Specifically check out the book because Hollywood is Hollywood, and there's some parts in American Sniper, the movie, that don't line up exactly with his retelling of those events. So if you want more of the accurate story, go check out Chris Kyle's book. Coming down to interviews and podcasts, I would very, very highly recommend checking out the Sean Ryan Show, Leif Babin's episode, even Sean Ryan Show, Eli Crane's episode. Another good interview would be Ed Young's Chris Kyle interview. That's kind of around when he releases his book, so they kind of talk about that. Also the Jocko podcast. Jocko just has his own podcast, and I don't know specifically what episodes he talks about his service experience, but I know it's kind of, sprinkled throughout his episodes, so just go check him out. And one last good point of reference that I found was actually from the History Channel called the Warfighter SEAL Team 3. It's just a set of episodes where Jocko and Leif kind of talk about their experiences, and it's pretty in depth. So that's another good reference to go off of. And with all that said and done, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe. Let me know if there's any further details you guys want to comment about and kind of fill in the gaps that I left out. And maybe if there's some more points of this story that you guys want me to kind of deep dive into, we could revisit in another video. And also just any other topics that you think is a fun point of history, go ahead and leave a comment down below. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys next time.